Hello, everybody. Welcome to Wrestling Guardians podcast. We are continuing our look at the upcoming matches for WrestleMania's 34. Again, if you're listening on YouTube, feel free to give this video a like if you like what you hear. Share us on any platform that you wish, and make sure to hit that subscribe button for more content. Okay, so today we're going to be continuing the WrestleMania 34 build-up and looking at what could potentially challenge the Reigns and Lesnar match for the main event. So we have a mixed tag team match involving WWE's latest signing, Ronda Rousey, teaming up with Kurt Angle to take on Triple H and Stephanie McMahon. Obviously, bit of an obvious question first of all, but considering this is Rousey's first in-ring performance with the WWE, do you think this is the right way to go?
Um, I think it makes the most sense because you can have Triple H and Kurt Angle take up a lot of the time. So I think it certainly makes sense to put her in a tag team match. However, Dan, I'm not sure that Kurt Angle is the right choice to be her tag team partner, especially since they've started to present him as more of a goofy comedy character than anything, and especially since you're going to have more mainstream attention than usual. Why not focus it on one of your younger superstars such as Braun Strowman or Roman Reigns instead of a guy like Kurt Angle?
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's a fair point. I guess there's been quite a while now where people have been expecting Triple H and Kurt Angle to be one of the matches at WrestleMania, so maybe that's why they went this way. But then, like, I kind of agree with you. Like, it would be better to have like a younger guy in this position. And I suppose if you were going to do Angle and Triple H, if that's what you were planning for so long, like you could have just still done that as a singles match and found something else for Rousey to do. I don't know, but like I'm trying not to be too negative on it. I mean, it is a first appearance at WrestleMania, first appearance for the company overall. So she's still going to have obviously a lot to learn, and who better to be in the ring than Triple H and Kurt Angle, by her side, I guess. So yeah, I'm cautiously optimistic about this match, but I think maybe they could have done a few other things with her. I think that's fair to say.
For sure, Dan. I also think I'm obviously not the biggest Roman Reigns fan, but I think that this match has the most curiosity factor for me personally going into WrestleMania. The one thing that I'm sort of curious to see is what Ronda Rousey will do, what sort of in-ring performer she will be presented as, and
Mhm.
whether she will pull out like her patented armbar. Um,
Yeah.
so in some ways, to a segment of the fan base, this could be the biggest attraction heading into WrestleMania.
Yeah, certainly could be. I mean, we mentioned it last time when we talked about Reigns and Lesnar being probably the main event, but if you were Vince McMahon, kind of going into the show, would you have faith in Rousey to deliver, by putting her in the main event spot? I mean, it's not like she's a nobody. It's not like they've got a celebrity, from Hollywood. This is a trained fighter, I guess. So she obviously has got some skills and things. But would you want her main event in your show or closing out the show?
Then again, I think the problem is the show is going to be so long that it's going to be almost impossible for any main event really to keep the fans invested in it. So I
Mm.
would be tempted uh, not to go with that option. I'm not sure this match or the Universal title match has the chops to close out the show. I
Mm.
think if the Undertaker does come back for one last ride, I think that's what you close the show with personally.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose you could make a case as well for Nakamura and Styles if that match is actually going to happen. But for the casual fan, at least, you know, you would probably sit up late if for Ronda Rousey's first WWE appearance, I guess. Whereas Reigns and Lesnar, it's like I saw that before. I'm perfectly willing, especially if you're in the UK. I mean, us guys are asked to stay up till like 4 or 5 in the morning if we want to watch the whole thing, and I don't know if I'm going to be willing to stay up till 5 o'clock to watch Reigns and Lesnar. But Ronda Rousey, maybe I would. Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah. But again, that's me, and that's me being a hipster internet fan again. I don't know, but looking at it from through the eyes of the casual fan, I would certainly stay up to see Rousey take on obviously Stephanie McMahon and everything. But You know, so it sounds like we're in maybe kind of higher spirits with this match compared to Reigns and Lesnar. Is that fair? So I suppose the first thing to think about is obviously the build up to this match. I mean, how have you found it? Do you think that Rousey, has hit the ground running, or do you think, is this the kind of the right people to put her with? Do you think, or maybe could she have just been given a bit more free reign just to go after somebody else, maybe like Asuka or Charlotte or something?
I think it's not an exaggeration to say that she had a poor performance at Elimination Chamber, but I think
Hmm.
she has redeemed herself in recent weeks. I think less is more with Ronda Rousey, whether it be airtime, promo time, or anything. I think you need
Yeah.
to present her as a special attraction, very similar to the way you do with Brock Lesnar. Not exactly the same way as Brock Lesnar, but the structure has to be largely the same. Um,
Hmm.
so I think in recent weeks, the presentation of Ronda Rousey has gotten better, but I think the presentation of Kurt Angle has worsened dramatically. I know it
Mm.
doesn't help that the man can't deliver scripted lines, but the guy is an Olympic gold medalist. You shouldn't treat him like a joke.
Yeah, I mean, I guess they're trying to relive some of the Attitude Era times where they had that love triangle between him and Stephanie and Triple H. But yeah, I agree. It's not really working today. It's not really coming across like it's supposed to. Um, I mean, I think like Rousey's. I agree with Elimination Chamber. It was a little bit of a lackluster performance, and she still very much seems a little bit starstruck. To be honest, like it's almost like she still can't quite get over that she's in the WWE, which is crazy considering obviously the heights that she's enjoyed with UFC and the different films that she's been in. But she still doesn't feel like an ingrained WWE superstar to me yet, and time will tell whether she will end up being or going that way. Maybe I'm being a bit harsh on her, yeah, because it is early days, and maybe that is an indication as to why she should be with Triple H and Stephanie at this point.
I think that's totally fair, Dan, and it's very perplexing because even if you put WrestleMania on pay per view, WrestleMania wouldn't draw as many buys as the biggest Ronda Rousey fights in the UFC. WrestleMania 28, 23, which are the two biggest pay per views that WWE has ever done, pale in comparison to some of her biggest fights.
Hmm. Yeah, no, it's funny. I mean, like I guess it's if we believe what she says, obviously it's not just kind of it's kind of promo stuff. Like she has been wanting this for a very long time. Apparently it was a childhood dream of hers, so maybe she's still kind of getting over the emotion of that. But it's just, and it goes back to maybe like nobody's really put this through as an argument, so to speak. But you could have made the case that Rousey could have gone with going to NXT for a few months because um, and I get why they haven't because I think she's just too big a name to put into the NXT roster at this point. But it could have helped her in terms of just how to do like the kind of facial expressions and the non-verbal communication stuff. Um, like her kind of facial reactions to things are still very kind of random and don't really fit with the ongoing narrative around her, and it kind of makes her feel a little bit awkward. Um, I mean, do you think maybe like an NXT push would have been the right way to go, or do you think she's just too big a name for that?
Yeah, I think she's far too big a name for that, and I think the
Mm.
only way you do it is by pushing her right into a match at WrestleMania.
Hmm.
I mean, some time at the Performance Center certainly wouldn't have gone amiss, but as you said, I think she's far too big a name for WrestleMania.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's probably fair. Um, so, I mean, there's still a few weeks left to go. Obviously, I think the build-up has been a little bit awkward so far, but I mean, I'm not the biggest Stephanie McMahon fan of all time, but I know that given the opportunity, she can really like tell a story very effectively. Um, do you think Rousey works as this kind of anti-authority figure at this point, though? Like, do you think she's the best person to go with that narrative, or should she have just come in as like an all-conquering, like dominant force?
Um, I think she can work as an anti-authority character if presented in the right way, but
Mm,
I'm not so sure if it's working at the moment. And I
mm,
also think I'm not exactly sure that Stephanie McMahon is the right person to play an authority figure because I don't think she's anywhere near as talented as her father was.
mm. Yeah, I think she likes to think that she is, but no, I agree with that. I guess like if you're doing the anti-authority angle, you need a kind of you need like an obstacle, and you need like where the guy wants to end up. So with Daniel Bryan, it worked perfectly because his dream was to be WWE champion, main event WrestleMania, and he had Stephanie and Triple H kind of standing in his way, and we were kind of backing him to overcome those obstacles. With Rousey, it's like she's been given everything she wants. Like she's a WWE superstar. She's going to be in WrestleMania. Like it's kind of Stephanie and Triple H's role in all this is just a little bit random and awkward. It doesn't really fit into a coherent narrative for me.
Yeah, yeah, I think the idea is just that it's very ADHD in many ways. They just want to put together three or four names that they think will go together on paper, really.
Yeah, I think that's it. I suppose they have to kind of address what happened at the WrestleMania 31 show, um, and it makes sense from that sense that Stephanie and Triple H want to get their revenge on Rousey for that. But that was like what 3 years ago now. Like I don't think anyone really cares. Like it just doesn't feel like a coherent story to me. I don't know, but maybe I'm being a bit harsh. Maybe.
Yeah, no, it's not a coherent story at all. I'd agree with you there. And I can't,
Mm.
I failed to find one match on the card that has a coherent story behind it at all.
Well, that's another point for another video, I think. But, and so you have the build, obviously, which is going along fine. And I think the match quality. I mean, are you expecting big things from Rousey in this match? I mean, considering that obviously she's only going to be able to wrestle Stephanie McMahon. How do you think? Like, do you expect her to be involved in most of the match, or do you think it's going to be mainly Triple H and Kurt Angle?
But yeah, I think it's going to be mainly Triple H and Kurt Angle. And I think Rousey's going to get the hot tag and just finish mop up Stephanie at
Mm.
the end.
Yeah, that's probably the way it's going to go. Yeah, I don't know. It's really going to be interesting to see what they do with it after WrestleMania because obviously this is its own thing, and obviously Triple H and Stephanie obviously needed to get this out of their system to start with. Um, but I agree with you. I'd like Rousey to go on a little bit of a Lesnar run as being like the kind of like the dominant all conquering all conquering force. Like maybe they could even play on like her heyday in UFC was just about coming in and beating somebody in a matter of seconds. I mean, maybe they could do that. Like, I'm not saying like squash matches against like enhancement talents, but like against actual established people on the roster. Coming and beating guys like Dana Brooke and stuff like that in a few seconds, and building that up slowly until you reach somebody with a bit more credibility, like Sasha Banks or Bailey. Do you think that would work? Or?
I actually expect her to squash Asuka at SummerSlam now.
Really?
Yeah,
I hope that doesn't happen.
really. So
Like,
I think the whole reason why they're promoting Asuka's undefeated streak is to feed Rousey at the end of the day.
oh, don't say that. No. Oh, you've made me unhappy now. um, I mean, yeah, it would certainly make a huge amount of impact if they were to go that way. I don't know. Like maybe I don't know if Oscar's the right person to do it against though. Like maybe if she came in and squashed somebody like Sasha or Charlotte, maybe. But I think Rousey versus Oscar is going to be like the money match. Like if they don't do that at SummerSlam, then certainly next year's WrestleMania. I really hope they go that way, and hopefully Oscar's obviously still undefeated by then. Um, yeah, I don't know. I think you could get a fairly decent display out of the two of them actually. I don't know, but maybe you're right.
I
Maybe that's
get
what
this
they'll do.
nagging feeling that at the end of the day, this may all serve to put over Charlotte Flair.
Hmm. Yeah, she's she's getting into that territory, isn't she? Of like Triple H, John Cena. Like ultimately, it'll always comes down to her.
Female Roman Reigns by the day.
Yeah, yeah. Like I think. I mean, I expect her to be on Raw at some point in 2018. So I just think like she's not obviously getting the attention that the company feels like she deserves over at SmackDown. So I expect her to come over to Raw. I mean, I'd much rather it be Rousey that ends Oscar Street than Charlotte, but there's probably a good chance that maybe Charlotte will do it as well.
Right, right. I am looking forward to a potential Charlotte Asuka match at WrestleMania, though.
Yeah, is it still? It's still kind of up in the air the way because obviously we at some point we need to talk about the women's championship matches, and I don't know if it's still going to be Oscar and Alexa at WrestleMania. Is that officially announced yet? Or
Not really, no, not at all.
yeah, yeah, it's interesting the way they would go. That I mean, they still need to find a place for Nia Jax as well. Um, Actually, I wrote an article recently about how to fit Nia Jax into the WrestleMania card. Obviously, she hasn't got an official place yet. Um, one of my ideas was maybe to insert her into this match here. So, like, rather than have Stephanie as the competitor, maybe have them kind of employ the services of Nia Jax to go against Rousey. But maybe that's asking a bit too much. I don't think Stephanie would give up that spotlight.
Yeah, probably not. Neither she nor her husband are ever giving up the spotlight.
No, absolutely. But like, which other members of the female roster would you like to see Rousey go up against?
Uh, I'm not sure, Dan. What about you?
Um, I think certainly. I mean, Oscar and Charlotte, I think are given. Like they will happen at some point, and I think they will work very well. Um, I'd like to see her against Nia Jax. And again, there's always that possibility that they could sort of shock the world and have Nia in that position, who gets squashed by Rousey, just to boost her kind of credibility and persona a little bit. I think you've got guys down on NXT as well, like Ember Moon and Baszler. I think could work quite well. So there's definitely a lot of mileage that you can get out of Rousey throughout 2018. I just hope that she appears a lot more than kind of Brock Lesnar does.
Yeah, that's the problem. I think the women's roster is so shallow right now that I'm sort of struggling to find opponents other than Charlotte and Asuka.
Yeah, I mean the difference between like credible opponents. I think there's people that they can use and people they can bring back. Obviously, I mean, if you looked at the women's Royal Rumble match, like they managed to get 30 competitors there, which was quite impressive in itself. Actually, there's definitely people that you can bring back to face.
They'd have to borrow from their past quite extensively.
Yeah. Yeah, but then again, Rousey versus Beth Phoenix could work potentially well. Like Beth was looking pretty good in the Rumble match. I mean, I still expect her to maybe make a 11th hour appearance and maybe challenge Nia Jax at WrestleMania, but that's another story.
Dan, I'd be very surprised if Nia Jax didn't find herself in the Raw Women's Championship match.
Yeah, it just feels like a long time coming to me, really. I mean, they need to stop having her kind of tap out so much, though. I think that's not a great way to build her up. I mean, this kind of feud between her and Asuka is doing wonders for Asuka, but like it's making Nia Jax look a little bit of a, I wouldn't say a joke, but somebody who's not exactly credible enough for the championship at this point, anyway.
That's true. That's the women's roster. Do you think we could see another injection of fresh blood into the women's roster?
Hopefully, I mean, like I say, there's still a few people that to come up from the NXT ranks. I mean, I'd love to see Nikki Cross at some point make a main roster appearance. Whether she's going to come up as part of Sanity or on her own, I don't know. It's a different story. But you've got her, you've got Ember Moon. I'd love to see Ember Moon come up and maybe challenge Asuka because from a storyline perspective that would make sense because she obviously was the closest person to beating Asuka down on NXT. So maybe that could be a story they go with. But I definitely agree that they need to find some new recruits if they want to make Rousey's time in WWE worthwhile.
For sure. There's no question. Do you think they'll end up bringing in a few more people from the UFC? I would hope not.
But you never know. Maybe Rousey is a little bit of a test case in that example. Like, if this goes well for her, then it will certainly attract a lot more people from UFC over, I would imagine. Whereas if they don't use her very well and it kind of turns out as a little bit of a flop, then maybe not. I'm not sure. Um, I mean, there's certainly women that you could bring in from different parts of the wrestling world. I mean, I don't tend to watch the Japanese stuff that much with the women's roster anyway, but I'm sure there's quite a few people that could come over. Kairi Sane, obviously down on NXT, we haven't mentioned yet, could be a credible opponent for for Rousey at some point in the future. But it's all about, and it goes back to what you said before. It all comes down to how she's presented as a performer. Like, are they going to expect her to kind of grapple with people, or is she just going to be allowed to kind of rely on what she does best with like the judo stuff and the things she learned in UFC? Um, it's really hit or miss, and I think that's why this WrestleMania match is so intriguing, because it really is going to be like an eye opener in terms of what they actually end up doing with Rousey going forward. So I'd definitely say I was looking forward to this Mania match, because I think it has a lot of long term implications.
Uh, for sure, for sure. I'm actually not sure that has too many long term implications, but I'm looking forward to it nonetheless.
Fair enough. Fair enough. And I suppose if someone was to ask you here and now, like which one you'd put as the main event, like, would it be this one or would it be the Universal title?
Uh, I would guess that the Universal title would close out the show, but my preference would be either the Undertaker match or Nakamura Styles.
Hmm. Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, we'll certainly get around to those later on in the series, but I suppose just to kind of to wrap this episode up. So I think we would generally say that the build up has been maybe a little bit lackluster. There's still some time to go, and it would be interesting to see what they do with it. I mean, I haven't particularly enjoyed having Stephanie McMahon have such a prominent role in the build up to WrestleMania. I think she's always a little bit of a buzzkill in terms of like the narratives and the promos leading up to WrestleMania, but obviously she feels like she needs to be in that position, I guess. And I think the match could work out pretty well. And in my opinion, at least, I think this is going to tell us a lot in terms of what the future holds for Ronda Rousey's career. Was there any kind of final thoughts you want to sort of relate to this match?
I think that's about it, really. Now.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Brilliant. So yeah, we've got a few matches to talk about in the future. So obviously, stay tuned to the channel. Maybe we could look at Nakamura Styles next time or something like that. But and incidentally, if you're still following our WrestleMania review series, we'll be uploading the next edition very soon. So just keep an eye out for that, and just remember to obviously subscribe to the channel. Okay. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.